Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the starship Indomitable, watching the alien vessel approach. The ship was massive, 3 times larger than any human vessel. Its dark metal surface seemed to absorb light, making it look like a piece of space itself. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. "Put it on screen," Sarah ordered. The view screen flickered to life, showing a tall, thin alien with gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am Commander Thex of the Veltar Hegemony. You will identify yourselves immediately." Sarah stepped forward. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation. Welcome to human space." The alien's face showed what might have been surprise. "Human? Space? There is no such thing. This sector belongs to the hegemony. It has belonged to us for 3,000 years. Not anymore," Sarah replied calmly. "We've established colonies on 12 worlds in this region. They are under our protection." Commander Thex made a harsh sound that could have been laughter. "Protection? From what? You are primitives who barely understand space travel. The hegemony controls 47 star systems and 12 different species. You will surrender your illegal colonies immediately." Sarah felt her jaw tighten. "That's not going to happen. Then you will be destroyed," Thex said simply. "We have eliminated 63 species that refuse to submit. You will be the 64th. The transmission ended abruptly. Sarah turned to her crew. "Get me a priority channel to Earth. President Rivera needs to hear about this." 3 hours later, Sarah was in a secure conference room talking to President Marcus Rivera. The president was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind him stood General Patricia Stone, the head of Federation military forces. "So they want us to give up everything beyond Earth?" Rivera asked after hearing Sarah's report. "Yes, sir. All 12 colony worlds. And they want us to accept their..." General Stone leaned forward. "What do we know about their military strength? Their ship was huge, but our sensors couldn't get clear readings on their weapons or shields. What worries me is how confident they sounded, like they've done this many times before." Rivera was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked directly at the camera. "Admiral Chen, please send the following message to this Commander Thex. No." Sarah blinked. "Sir, just no? Just no. Nothing else." General Stone smiled grimly. "I like it. Short and clear." The message was sent within the hour. The alien response came back quickly. Commander Thex appeared on screen again, this time looking confused. "Did you understand our demands?" he asked. "Yes," Sarah replied. "Our answer is no. But you must negotiate. All species negotiate. The Zephyrians negotiated for 40 years before surrendering. The Shardai took 60 years. You cannot simply say no." "We just did," Sarah said, and ended the transmission. 2 days later, the aliens returned with a fleet. Sarah counted 15 ships, all the same dark design as the first one. The lead ship sent another message. "I am Admiral Corex of the Hegemony First Fleet. You have refused our generous offer. Now you will see the price of defiance. We will destroy your colony on New Geneva as an example. The rest will follow unless you surrender immediately." Sarah's blood ran cold. New Geneva was home to 50,000 people, including families with children. "You would murder innocent civilians?" "Civilians?" Admiral Corex sounded genuinely puzzled. "There are no civilians in war. There are only those who submit and those who are eliminated." The alien fleet turned toward the jump point that led to New Geneva. Sarah immediately sent a warning to the UI colony, but she knew they couldn't evacuate 50,000 people in time. Governor Lisa Park of New Geneva received the warning with typical human stubbornness. Instead of panicking, she organized the colonists. Every civilian who could hold a weapon was armed. The small defense force prepared their outdated fighters and orbital platforms. When the alien fleet arrived at New Geneva, they expected to find people begging for mercy. Instead, they found humans ready to fight. The battle was brutal and one-sided. The alien weapons cut through human shields like paper, but the humans kept fighting. When their ships were destroyed, they used escape pods as weapons, ramming them into alien vessels. When the aliens landed troops, the colonists fought them in the streets with hunting rifles and kitchen knives. Admiral Corex had expected the battle to last an hour. It took 3 days. When it was over, New Geneva was destroyed. But the aliens had lost 4 ships and thousands of troops to what they considered primitive savages. The news of New Geneva reached every human world within hours. Instead of fear, it sparked rage. President Rivera appeared on every communication channel across human space. "The aliens think they can terrorize us into submission," he said, his voice hard as steel. "They think that if they kill enough of us, the rest will kneel. They don't understand humans. We don't kneel, we fight. And when we can't fight anymore, we fight anyway." Within weeks, every human world was preparing for war. Factories that made civilian goods switched to building weapons. Miners worked around the clock to extract metals for warships. Even children helped by growing food and making supplies. The transformation amazed the aliens. In their experience, when a demonstration of force failed, most species would negotiate for decades before finally surrendering. But humans seemed to become more determined with each attack. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded a small patrol group near the Kepler system. When the next alien attack came, her 3 ships faced 9 alien vessels. By all military logic, she should have retreated. Instead, she attacked. Her ships were fast and small compared to the massive alien vessels. She used this to her advantage, darting between the larger ships like insects around giants. Her weapons barely dented the alien armor, but she wasn't trying to destroy them. She was studying them. After an hour of dancing around the alien fleet, she finally retreated. But she had learned something valuable. The alien ships were powerful but slow to turn. Their weapons were devastating but took time to aim. And most importantly, they weren't used to enemies who attacked instead of running away. Elena sent her observations to Admiral Chen, who immediately shared them with every human commander. The aliens had given humans their first real advantage: knowledge. Back on the hegemony capital world of Veltar Prime, the ruling council was confused. The humans were not behaving like any species they had encountered before. Instead of seeking peace talks, they were building more weapons. Instead of offering tribute, they were attacking hegemony ships wherever they found them. "Perhaps we should send more ships," suggested Councillor Vex, a creature that looked like a walking tree with too many eyes. "No," replied Supreme Commander Zarn, the leader of all hegemony forces. "That would suggest we consider them a real threat. We will crush them with our standard occupation force. When they see their worlds burning, they will beg for mercy like all the others." But Supreme Commander Zarn had made a mistake. He was thinking like someone who had won every war for 3,000 years. He couldn't imagine that these primitive humans might actually be dangerous. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on her bridge once more, watching the stars. In her hands was a report from Dr. James Wu, the Federation's top scientist. He had been studying the wreckage from New Geneva and had made a disturbing discovery. The alien technology was more advanced than human technology, but it was also old. Very old. The aliens had been using the same weapons and ship designs for centuries. They had stopped innovating because they had never needed to. Humans, on the other hand, had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They knew how to adapt, how to change, how to find new ways to kill their enemies. Now they would use those skills against the aliens. Sarah smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were fighting primitives. They were about to learn the difference between advanced technology and a warrior species that had never stopped evolving its art of war. The war started badly for humanity. The alien fleets moved through human space like a storm, destroying everything in their path. Colony after colony fell to the massive hegemony ships. The humans fought hard, but their weapons barely scratched the alien armor. Captain Elena Vasquez watched her homeworld of Aurora burn from space. Her small destroyer, the Swift Wind, was one of only 3 human ships to escape the battle. The other 47 had been destroyed in less than 6 hours. "Captain, we're receiving a general retreat order," reported her communications officer, Ensign Kim. Elena stared at the burning planet below. 2 million people lived on Aurora. Now most of them were dead. Set course for the Vega system. We're joining Admiral Chen's fleet. The retreat to Vega was chaos. Human ships from 6 different battles arrived damaged and carrying refugees. Admiral Chen tried to organize a defense, but everyone knew it was hopeless. The aliens had too many ships and too much firepower. Dr. James Wu worked frantically in his makeshift laboratory aboard the medical ship Hippocrates. Around him, pieces of alien technology salvaged from destroyed hegemony ships covered every surface. For 3 weeks, he had been trying to understand how the alien weapons worked. The energy patterns don't make sense, he muttered to his assistant, Dr. Sarah Kim. Their weapons should be much more powerful than they are. Dr. Kim looked up from her computer screen. What do you mean? Look at this. Wu pointed to a holographic display showing the internal structure of an alien weapon. The power source is incredibly advanced. It should be able to fire much faster and hit much harder, but it's like they're only using half its potential. Maybe they don't know how to use their own technology. Wu paused. Or maybe they've forgotten. These weapon designs are at least 500 years old. The aliens have been winning so easily for so long, they never needed to improve anything. Meanwhile, in the outer system, Captain Elena Vasquez was developing a new kind of warfare. Her ship was fast but weak, so she couldn't fight the aliens directly. Instead, she began using hit-and-run tactics. Elena would wait until an alien patrol was spread out, then attack the ship that was furthest from the others. Her destroyer would speed in, fire everything it had, then run away before the other alien ships could respond. She couldn't destroy the big alien ships this way, but she could damage them and force them to return to base for repairs. It's like fighting giants, she told her crew after their 5th successful hit-and-run attack. We can't knock them down, but we can make them bleed. Other human captains began copying Elena's tactics. Soon, small groups of human ships were attacking alien patrols all across human space. The aliens found themselves constantly looking over their shoulders, never knowing when humans might strike. Supreme Commander Zarn was not pleased. His forces controlled most of human space, but they were taking constant small losses. Worse, the humans were learning from every battle. Their attacks were getting better and more coordinated. The humans are like parasites, he told the Hegemony Council. They are too small to fight directly, but they drain our strength bit by bit. Counselor, Vex's many eyes focused on the tactical display. Send more ships, crush them completely. I have already sent more ships. The humans simply scatter and hide among the asteroids and gas clouds. They know this region of space better than we do. Back at Vega, Dr. Wu made a breakthrough. He had figured out how to modify human weapons to use alien energy principles. The new weapons couldn't match alien technology, but they were much more powerful than anything humans had built before. We can't outgun them, he explained to Admiral Chen, but we can hurt them now, really hurt them. Admiral Chen studied the weapon designs. How many ships can we retrofit? I can modify the weapons on 50 ships in the next month. After that, we can start mass production. Chen nodded. Do it, and send the plans to every human shipyard that's still operating. The first test of the new weapons came when Captain Elena's patrol encountered a lone alien heavy cruiser near the asteroid belt of the Ross system. Instead of running away after a quick attack, Elena decided to stay and fight. The battle lasted 4 hours. The alien ship was still more powerful, but Elena's upgraded weapons could actually penetrate its shields. More importantly, Elena's crew knew how to fight dirty. They used the asteroids as cover, popping out to fire and then hiding again. The alien captain had never faced this kind of warfare. In the Hegemony's experience, space battles were formal affairs where ships lined up and fired at each other until one side was destroyed. This chaotic, three-dimensional combat confused him. When the alien ship's shields finally failed, Elena didn't destroy it. Instead, she crippled its engines and weapons, leaving it helpless but intact. Then she broadcast a message on all frequencies. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Federation. I have disabled the Hegemony cruiser Dominant, Fist, Any alien ships in this system have 1 hour to retreat or you'll end up like your friend here. No alien ships came to help. Elena's message spread throughout both human and alien communication networks. For the first time since the war began, a human ship had defeated an alien ship in single combat. The victory at Ross changed everything. Human morale improved dramatically. More importantly, other species under hegemony rule began to take notice. If the primitive humans could defeat hegemony ships, maybe the aliens weren't as invincible as they claimed. The bird-like Zephyrians were the first to make contact. A small Zephyrian ship approached Admiral Chen's fleet under a flag of truce. The Zephyrian captain, whose name translated as Swift Talon, brought an interesting offer. "We have been slaves of the hegemony for 800 years, Swift Talon explained through a translation device. "We are not warriors like humans, but we know things. We know where the hegemony keeps its supply bases. We know which routes their ships use. This information could be useful to you." Admiral Chen was cautious. "Why should we trust you? You've served the hegemony for centuries." Swift Talon's feathers ruffled with what might have been anger. "Served? We were conquered. Our choice was slavery or extinction. But you humans have shown us a third option: resistance." The Zephyrian intelligence proved invaluable. Human raid groups began hitting hegemony supply convoys with perfect timing. Alien. Reinforcements found their bases destroyed before they arrived. The war was becoming a nightmare for the hegemony commanders. Supreme Commander Zarn realized he was facing something unprecedented. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever fought back this effectively after suffering such early defeats. Most species would have surrendered by now or at least tried to negotiate. "The humans are not behaving rationally," he reported to the Hegemony Council. "They continue fighting even when victory is impossible." "All species fight when cornered," replied Councillor Vex dismissively. "No," Zarn insisted. "All species negotiate when cornered. The humans seem to fight harder when they're losing. I recommend we open peace talks before they become more dangerous." The Council rejected his recommendation. They could not imagine that primitive humans could pose a real threat to their vast empire. But in the Kepler system, Admiral Chen was preparing something that would change the hegemony's mind. She had gathered every available human ship for one massive battle. It would be the largest fleet action in human history. "We can't win a direct fight," she told her assembled captains. "But we don't need to win. We just need to prove that we can make them bleed. When word of this battle reaches every species in hegemony space, they'll know that the aliens can be beaten." Captain Elena Vasquez looked around the briefing room at the other human commanders. They were all volunteers. They all knew this might be a suicide mission. But they also knew that sometimes making a statement was more important than survival. "When do we attack?" Elena asked. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. "Tomorrow. By this time next week, either we'll be dead, or the entire galaxy will know that the hegemony can be defeated." The Second Battle of Kepler was about to begin. And unlike the first battle, this time the humans were ready to show the galaxy what they could really do when they stopped running and started fighting back. The Battle of Kepler lasted 18 hours and changed the course of galactic history. Admiral Chen's human fleet faced off against Admiral Corex's massive hegemony armada in the space around Kepler's gas giant. Commander Jiang Wei led the first wave of human ships directly at the alien formation. His 20 destroyers looked tiny compared to the enemy battleships, but they moved with deadly purpose. Jiang's plan was simple and completely insane. He would ram his ships into the alien vessels if necessary. "All ships, this is Jiang Wei," he broadcast on an open channel that both humans and aliens could hear. "Today we show the galaxy what humans do when someone threatens our families. We don't surrender, we don't negotiate. We fight until we win, or until we're all dead." The aliens expected the human ships to break formation when they got close, following normal space combat tactics. Instead, Jiang's destroyers flew straight into the alien formation, firing at point-blank range. 3 human ships exploded immediately, but they took 2 alien cruisers with them. Admiral Corex was shocked. "What are they doing? No species fights like this." But Zhang's attack was just the beginning. While the aliens focused on his suicidal charge, Admiral Chen revealed her real plan. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, a second human fleet powered up their engines and emerged from concealment. The hidden fleet consisted of converted civilian ships, mining vessels, and cargo haulers armed with Dr. Wu's new weapons. They weren't proper warships, but they didn't need to be. They just needed to swarm the alien fleet while it was distracted. All asteroid fleet units, this is Admiral Chen. Execute Plan Hornet's Nest. 200 human ships erupted from the asteroids like angry insects. The aliens suddenly found themselves surrounded and outnumbered. Their powerful ships were designed to fight other big ships, not swarms of small, fast vessels. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded one of the asteroid fleet ships, a converted ore hauler called Lucky Strike. Her crew of former miners knew every rock in the Kepler belt, and they used that knowledge to devastating effect. "Take us through the iron cluster," Elena ordered her pilot. "We'll use the magnetic interference to mask our approach." Elena's ship emerged from behind a massive iron asteroid directly above an alien battleship. Before the aliens could react, she dropped her entire cargo hold full of modified mining charges directly onto their hull. The explosion cracked the alien ship's armor like an eggshell. Elena's crew cheered as atmosphere vented from the enemy vessel, but she was already looking for her next target. All across the battlefield, human ships were using unconventional tactics that confused and frustrated the alien commanders. Mining. Ships dropped asteroids on enemy vessels. Cargo haulers rammed alien fighters. Even civilian pleasure craft joined the fight, carrying bombs and volunteers willing to die for victory. The aliens had never faced anything like this. In their experience, warfare was conducted by professional soldiers using proper military equipment. The idea that civilians would voluntarily join a battle was completely foreign to them. Admiral Corex tried to restore order to his fleet, but the humans gave him no time to reorganize. Every time he tried to group his ships together, human vessels would attack from a new direction. "Sir, we're receiving casualty reports," his aide reported with obvious distress. "We've lost 37 ships, including 6 battleships." Corex couldn't believe it. Losing even one battleship to primitive humans should have been impossible. Losing 6 was a disaster that would end his career. "Order all ships to retreat," he commanded. "We'll regroup at the Centauri base." But Admiral Chen wasn't finished. As the alien fleet tried to withdraw, she launched the final phase of her plan. Captain Jiang Wei, whose suicide charge had begun the battle, wasn't actually dead. His flagship had been badly damaged, but he and his crew had survived. "This is Jiang Wei to all human ships," his voice crackled over the communication system. "The aliens are running away. Let's show them how humans chase their enemies." Jiang's surviving ships, along with Elena's asteroid fleet, pursued the retreating aliens. The chase lasted 6 hours and covered 3 star systems. By the time it ended, the hegemony had lost over 60 ships to human forces. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. Species that had been enslaved by the hegemony for centuries suddenly realized that their masters weren't invincible. More importantly, they saw that humans were willing to fight alongside anyone who wanted freedom. The crystalline Shardai were the next species to contact Admiral Chen. Unlike the bird-like Zephyrians, the Shardai had once been a powerful military force before the hegemony conquered them. Their representative, a being that looked like a walking diamond, made an interesting proposal. "We still remember how to fight," the Shardai explained through harmonic vibrations that human computers translated into words. "We have hidden weapons factories on dead worlds throughout our former territory. Give us the plans for your new weapons, and we will build ships to fight alongside you." Admiral Chen was careful. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing but the chance to be free again. We have waited 500 years for someone to show us that the hegemony could be beaten. You have given us hope." Within months, hidden Shardai factories were producing hybrid ships that combined alien technology with human weapons and human tactics. The crystalline beings proved to be excellent pilots, and their ships were nearly invisible to hegemony sensors. But the most important change was happening on worlds throughout hegemony space. Humans had begun broadcasting something more dangerous than weapons: ideas. General Patricia Stone had created the Psychological Warfare Division, and their weapon was human culture. They broadcast human music, human stories, and most dangerous of all, human concepts of individual freedom. The hegemony had ruled through a strict caste system where every being knew their place and never questioned it. But human broadcasts talked about democracy, about choosing your own government, about the idea that no one had the right to rule over others without their consent. Freedom isn't just about fighting, explained one broadcast that reached millions of beings across hegemony space. Freedom is about choosing your own path, making your own decisions, and standing up for what you believe is right. Every thinking being deserves these choices. Supreme Commander Zarn watched these broadcasts with growing alarm. He understood military threats, but this was something entirely different. The humans were attacking the very foundation of hegemony society. They're not just fighting for territory, he reported to the council. They're spreading revolutionary ideas. Our slave species are beginning to question why they should obey us. Councillor Vex was dismissive. Ideas cannot destroy warships. No, but they can destroy empires, Zarn replied. Look at what's happening on Xerion Prime. Xerion Prime was a hegemony factory world populated by the insect-like Clitic. For, 800 years, the Clitic had served as industrial workers, never questioning their role. But after hearing human broadcasts about workers' rights and self-determination, they had gone on strike. The strike spread to other Clitic worlds, then to other slave species. Entire sectors of hegemony space were shutting down as beings refused to work under alien masters. Admiral Chen recognized the opportunity. We're not just fighting a war anymore, she told her senior staff. We're leading a revolution. Every species that joins us makes the hegemony weaker and us stronger. Captain Elena Vasquez had been promoted to Commodore and now commanded an entire squadron of mixed human and alien ships. Her flagship was still the Lucky Strike, the converted mining vessel that had become famous throughout the galaxy. Commodore, her Zephyrian intelligence officer Swift Talon reported, "We're receiving transmissions from the hegemony border worlds. 3 more species are requesting permission to join our alliance." Elena smiled. The war was becoming something much bigger than anyone had imagined. What had started as humanity's fight for survival was turning into a galactic uprising against tyranny. Dr. James Wu continued improving human technology, but now he had help from alien scientists who brought knowledge accumulated over thousands of years. The hybrid technologies they developed were beginning to match and even exceed pure hegemony equipment. "We're not just copying their technology anymore," Wu explained to Admiral Chen. "We're improving it. Combining human innovation with alien knowledge is creating weapons and ships better than anything either side could build alone." The transformation was evident in the latest human ships. They were faster than hegemony vessels, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons that could punch through any alien defense. More importantly, they were crewed by volunteers from dozens of different species, all united by the human concept of fighting for freedom. As the 3rd year of the war began, Supreme Commander Zarn made a disturbing report to the Hegemony Council. "We no longer control 40% of our territory," he announced. "The rebellion has spread to 73 different species. Our industrial capacity has dropped by 60% due to strikes and sabotage. And worst of all, the humans are no longer just defending themselves. They're actively liberating our worlds. For the first time in 3,000 years, the hegemony was losing a war, and the beings beating them were the same primitives they had dismissed as too weak to matter." The Galactic Liberation Alliance held its first formal meeting on the human space station New Hope, orbiting the liberated world of Kepler Prime. Representatives from 23 different species gathered around a circular table that had been designed to ensure no single delegation appeared more important than others. Admiral Sarah Chen looked around the room at beings that would have been considered impossible allies just 5 years ago. The bird-like Zephyrian sat next to the crystalline Shardai, former hegemony slave species mixed freely with human commanders. At the head of the table sat President Marcus Rivera, who had traveled from Earth for this historic meeting. "We gather Today, not as separate species fighting separate wars, Rivera began, but as free beings united in common cause. The hegemony has ruled through fear and division for thousands of years. We will defeat them through cooperation and shared purpose. Swift Talon, now representing all Zephyrian forces, ruffled his bright feathers. The humans have given us something we thought lost forever: hope. My people pledge our entire remaining fleet to this alliance. The Shardai representative, whose crystalline body reflected the room's lights in beautiful patterns, vibrated harmonically. The translation device converted the sounds to words. We offer not just our ships, but our ancient knowledge. The hegemony made us forget our warrior traditions, but memory is returning. We will teach others what we remember of their weaknesses. One by one, each species pledged their support, but Admiral Chen knew that pledges wouldn't be enough. They needed a plan to end the war decisively. We've been fighting defensively for too long, she told the assembly. Liberating individual worlds is important, but the hegemony still controls their core systems. To win this war, we need to strike at their heart. Dr. James Wu, now serving as the Alliance's Chief Technology Officer, activated a holographic display showing the hegemony's communication network. We've been studying their command structure for 3 years. Everything runs through their central communication hub on Nexus Station. If we can capture or destroy that station, we can cut off their ability to coordinate their remaining forces. Commodore Elena Vasquez studied the tactical display. Nexus Station is in the middle of their most heavily defended system. They have 3 battle fleets protecting it, plus orbital defense platforms that could destroy anything we send against them. Not if we send everything, Admiral Chen said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. A direct assault on Nexus Station would require committing their entire Alliance fleet to a single battle. If they lost, the rebellion would be over. President Rivera leaned forward. Admiral, are you certain this is our best option? No, sir. But it's our only option for ending this war quickly. Every day we wait, more beings die under hegemony rule. We have the strength to do this, but only if we act together. The vote was unanimous. Operation Liberation's end would begin in 6 weeks. Meanwhile, on Veltar Prime, Supreme Commander Zarn was dealing with a crisis that seemed to grow worse every day. Half of the hegemony's territory was now under Alliance control. Worse, many of the remaining loyal species were beginning to question their allegiance. Sir, we're receiving reports of unrest on 15 more worlds, his aide reported. The local populations are demanding the right to vote on whether to remain in the hegemony. Zarn felt a pain behind his eyes that humans would have called a headache. Vote? When did our subjects start believing they had the right to vote on anything? It's the human influence, sir. Their broadcasts about democracy and self-determination are spreading everywhere. Even some of our own Veltar soldiers are asking questions about why we have the right to rule other species. The Supreme Commander understood that he was facing something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans hadn't just brought new weapons and tactics to the war. They had brought new ideas that were more dangerous than any bomb. Counselor Vex entered the command center, his tree-like form moving with unusual agitation. Supreme Commander, the Council has made a decision. We will offer the humans terms for peace. Zarn was surprised. What kind of terms? They may keep the worlds they have already conquered. In exchange, they will cease their military operations and their propaganda broadcasts. The rest of the galaxy will remain under hegemony control. Sir, I don't think the humans will accept those terms. They're not fighting for territory anymore. They're fighting for something they call universal freedom. Vex's many eyes focused on Zarn with irritation. All species fight for territory. Concepts like freedom are just propaganda tools. Zarn wasn't so sure, but he sent the peace offer anyway. The human response came back within hours. President Rivera's message was broadcast on every communication channel in the galaxy. To the rulers of the Veltar hegemony, you offer us peace while holding billions of beings in slavery. You ask us to accept freedom for some while denying it to others. This is not peace. This is compromise with evil. Our answer is the same as it was 5 years ago. No. The message continued. To all beings living under hegemony rule, your liberation is coming. The Alliance fleet moves toward the heart of their empire. Soon you will have the chance to choose your own destiny. Hold fast. Freedom is worth fighting for. The broadcast had an immediate effect. Revolts broke out on dozens of hegemony worlds. Entire fleets of alien ships declared for the Alliance and began attacking their former masters. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia was collapsing from within. Admiral Chen launched Operation Liberation's End exactly on schedule. The Alliance fleet that jumped into the Nexus system was the largest gathering of ships in galactic history. Over 3,000 vessels representing 31 different species, all flying under the banner of freedom. The battle for Nexus Station lasted 9 days and became known as the Great Liberation. Unlike previous battles where humans had been outnumbered and outgunned, this time the Alliance forces were evenly matched with their enemies. But the real difference wasn't in numbers or technology. It was in motivation. The hegemony forces fought because they were ordered to. The Alliance forces fought because they believed in their cause. Commodore Elena Vasquez led the assault on Nexus Station itself. Her converted mining ship Lucky Strike had been rebuilt and upgraded so many times that it barely resembled its original form, but she refused to give up command of it. Lucky Strike to all assault ships, she broadcast as they approached the station's defenses. Remember, we're not just fighting for victory. We're fighting for every being who dreams of freedom. Let's give them something to dream about. The assault was brutal. Nexus Station's defenses had been built to withstand any attack imaginable, but the builders had never imagined an attack carried out by beings who were willing to sacrifice everything for an idea. Human pilots flew suicide runs to clear paths for their allies. Zephyrian fighters used their incredible speed to target the station's weapon systems. Shar-Dai ships, nearly invisible to sensors, struck at critical support structures. And throughout the battle, the Alliance forces worked together with a coordination that amazed their enemies. Dr. Wu had developed a special weapon just for this mission, a computer virus designed to infiltrate the station's communication systems. When Elena's boarding parties finally reached the station's central core, they uploaded the virus directly into the hegemony's main communication network. Within hours, the virus had spread to every hegemony system. Their entire command structure collapsed as commanders lost contact with their superiors. Orders couldn't be transmitted. Battle plans couldn't be coordinated. The empire that had conquered the galaxy through superior organization suddenly found itself blind and deaf. Supreme Commander Zarn received the news in his command bunker deep beneath Veltar Prime's surface. His communications officer turned from her console with the expression of complete despair. "Sir, we've lost contact with all outer system commands. The human's virus has infected our entire network. We can't reach our fleets, our governors, or even our own orbital platforms." Zarn looked at the tactical display showing red markers where Alliance forces were advancing throughout former hegemony space. In 3 days, his empire had lost more territory than in the previous 3 years combined. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "there are reports of celebrations in the streets of Veltar Prime. Some of our own people are calling for surrender." For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Commander Zarn realized that victory was impossible. The humans and their allies hadn't just defeated the hegemony's military forces. They had defeated the idea that some beings had the right to rule others without consent. As Alliance ships entered the Veltar home system, Zarn made a decision that would have been unthinkable 5 years earlier. He opened a communication channel to Admiral Chen's flagship. "Admiral Chen, this is Supreme Commander Zarn of the Veltar hegemony. I request permission to discuss terms of surrender." Admiral Chen's response was broadcast throughout the galaxy. "Supreme Commander, we accept your request, but understand this. We're not here to conquer your empire. We're here to liberate it. Every being in this galaxy will have the right to choose their own government and their own destiny." 5 years after the surrender of the Veltar hegemony, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of New Terra Station, watching the first session of the Galactic Assembly. Through the transparent aluminum walls, she could see the greatest, Gathering of Species in Galactic History. The circular assembly hall had been designed by a joint team of human and alien architects. No species sat higher than any other. No delegation had more space than they needed. Even the translation systems had been built to ensure that every voice could be heard equally, whether it spoke in words, harmonic vibrations, electrical pulses, or chemical signals. President Rivera, now serving his second term as the first elected president of the Galactic Dominion, stood at the central podium. His hair was completely gray now, aged by 5 years of the most challenging leadership in human history. 5 years ago, we ended a war, Rivera told the assembly. Today we begin something much harder, building a peace that will last for generations. The Galactic Dominion is not an empire. It is an alliance of free peoples who choose to work together for mutual benefit and protection. Chen watched as delegates from over 200 species listened to the president's words. Some nodded in agreement. Others shifted restlessly, still uncertain about this new way of organizing galactic society. The former hegemony species were having the hardest time adjusting to democracy. Swift Talon, now serving as the elected representative of the Zephyrian worlds, raised one of his bright blue wings to speak. The Zephyrian Federation wishes to present the first resolution of this assembly. We propose the establishment of the Dominion Peacekeeping Force to ensure that no species ever again suffers under the rule of unwilling masters. A murmur ran through the assembly. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The Alliance military forces had won the war. But what would happen to them now that peace had arrived? General Patricia Stone, now serving as the Dominion's defense coordinator, stood to address the assembly. The peacekeeping force will be voluntary and multinational. Its only mission will be to protect the rights of free beings throughout the galaxy. Any species that chooses aggression over cooperation will face the combined might of all Dominion worlds. Chen smiled as she remembered the debates that had led to this moment. Some humans had wanted to establish a human-dominated empire, using their military victory to rule the galaxy. But President Rivera and Admiral Chen had argued for something different. A federation where humans would be equal partners, not overlords. We didn't fight this war to become the new masters, Chen had told the Human Congress during one heated debate. We fought it to end the concept of masters and slaves forever. If we become conquerors, we're no better than the hegemony we defeated. Theories. Decision hadn't been easy. Many humans felt they deserved special status as the species that had led the liberation. But in the end, human ideals of equality and democracy had won out over human pride. Dr. James Wu, now serving as the Dominion's chief science advisor, had established research stations throughout former hegemony space. Teams of scientists from dozens of species worked together, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded by the hegemony for millennia. We're making discoveries every day, Wu had reported to the Assembly's Science Committee. When you combine human innovation with Shardai crystal technology, Zephyrian aerodynamics, and Veltar energy systems, you get results that none of us could achieve alone. The technological revolution was transforming daily life throughout the Dominion. Faster-than-light communication systems allowed instant contact between worlds hundreds of light years apart. Medical advances were extending lifespans for all species. Agricultural improvements were ending hunger on dozens of worlds. But the most important changes were social. The rigid caste systems that had defined galactic society for thousands of years were crumbling. Beings who had been slaves for generations were learning to make their own choices. Democracy was spreading to worlds that had never heard the word before. Elena Vasquez, now an admiral in the peacekeeping force, commanded the newest and most advanced ship in the Dominion fleet. The CNS Liberation was a joint project, incorporating the best technology from 30 different species. Her crew represented 27 worlds and spoke 43 different languages. Admiral, her Shardai navigation officer reported, its crystalline form glowing with excitement. We're receiving a distress call from the Andromedy system. A previously unknown species is under attack by raiders. Elena didn't hesitate. Set course for Andromedy, maximum speed. Send word to Dominion Command that we're responding to a humanitarian crisis. This was what the peacekeeping force had been created for, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The raiders threatening the Andromeda system would soon learn that the galaxy had changed. Aggression was no longer profitable when every peaceful species was backed by the combined might of the Dominion. Back on New Terra Station, the Galactic Assembly was debating the proposal that would define the Dominion's future, the Universal Charter of Rights. The document had been written by a committee including humans, but also representatives from every major species group in the galaxy. Every sentient being has the right to choose their own government. Read Article 1. No being may be held in slavery or involuntary servitude. All beings are equal before the law, regardless of species, origin, or physical form. Chen remembered the months of debate that had gone into every word of the charter. Some species had argued that certain rights were human concepts that didn't apply to them. Others had insisted that their traditional ways of life be protected, even if those traditions included inequality. In the end, compromise had been achieved through a principle that was distinctly human. The idea that universal rights didn't mean uniform culture. Each species could maintain its own traditions and customs, as long as those customs didn't violate the basic rights of individuals. The vote on the charter was close. 847 in favor, 623 opposed, with 234 abstentions. But it passed, and with its passage, the Galactic Dominion became the first truly democratic government in galactic history. Supreme Commander Zarn, now serving as the elected leader of the reformed Veltar Republic, cast one of the votes in favor. His people had struggled more than most to adapt to democracy, but they were learning. The humans taught us something important, he had told the Veltar Assembly when they voted to join the Dominion. Strength isn't about ruling others. True strength comes from standing together as equals. As the first session of the Galactic Assembly came to an end, Chen reflected on how much had changed. The war had lasted 5 years, but the peace was proving much more difficult to build. Democracy was messy, slow, and sometimes frustrating. But it was also something that the galaxy had never experienced before. A system where every voice mattered. President Rivera joined Chen on the observation deck as the delegates began filing out of the assembly hall. Below them, beings from dozens of worlds mingled freely, discussing the day's debates and planning for tomorrow's sessions. "Do you think it will work?" Rivera asked, watching a group of young beings from different species playing together in the station's central garden. Chen smiled as she watched a human child teaching a young Zephyrian how to throw a ball, while a small Shardai created beautiful, light patterns for their entertainment. "Look at them, Mr. President, that's our answer right there." In the 5 years since the war's end, a new generation had grown up knowing freedom as their birthright. These children would never know a galaxy ruled by fear and oppression. They would grow up as citizens of a diverse, democratic civilization that valued cooperation over conquest. The Galactic Dominion wasn't perfect. There were still problems to solve, conflicts to mediate, and societies to help transition from authoritarianism to democracy. But for the first time in galactic history, these problems were being addressed by free beings working together, rather than by the decree of distant masters. Admiral Chen looked out at the stars visible through the station's transparent walls. Somewhere out there, peacekeeping force ships were protecting trade routes, responding to emergencies, and showing the flag of freedom to worlds that had never seen it before. The galaxy was vast, and there was still much work to be done. But humanity had given the galaxy something precious. The idea that freedom was not a privilege to be granted by rulers, but a right to be claimed by every thinking being. That idea had spread from Earth to the edges of known space, and it would continue spreading as long as there were beings willing to fight for it. The war was over. The Galactic Dominion had begun. And across 1,000 worlds, beings who had once been slaves were learning what it meant to be free. Chen smiled and headed back to her quarters. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new crises, and new opportunities to build something better than what had come before. But tonight she could rest knowing that humanity's first galactic war had ended not with conquest, But with the birth of galactic democracy, the future was bright with possibilities.